Hi then, Sarah. Thank you
Hi, Jodie.
so much. Thank you so much for offering to do this. And you did. You came to me and you offered to do this video. So thank you so much. If you could give me a little bit of background about you.
So I suppose my story started in summer 2011. I got sacked from my job and decided to go self-employed.
Right.
So that was kind of August 2011 time. And about 2 months into kind of starting up my own business, I started getting quite severe upper back pain, which was something I've never experienced before.
Right.
And it kind of just came out of nowhere. So I started looking into all the usual things, making sure that I had a good posture when working at my office, because that seemed to be the obvious thing that had changed. And that didn't really make a difference. So I went down the physiotherapy route, both private and NHS, and basically spent the next 2 years with the pain gradually getting worse and never really getting a diagnosis from anybody other than it's postural. It seemed to confuse a lot of people, the fact it was upper back pain, so it wasn't lower, it was all in my shoulders, between my shoulder blades, and it was getting worse, and there didn't really seem to be any explanation for it, and I was never really given a diagnosis. So that's how it started, and it gradually just became relentless. There was not really anything I could do to take the pain away other than temporary measures like heat, or well, that was about it. Even painkillers didn't really touch it. My doctor prescribed different ones along the way, but none of them really made a difference. So that's how it started, and it gradually became more and more worrying because it gradually became something that was just there all the time, not just when I was working, but just until from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed.
And how was this affecting your life?
As I say, it gradually became something that became very dominating. I've got quite an obsessive personality. It's one thing I've learned through doing this work. So I find it hard not to worry and not to dwell on things. Thoughts like, oh my word, this is going to be with me for the rest of my life. What am I going to do when I have children? All these kinds of worries, which of course, as now I know, of course, we're just feeding the problem. But at the time, I obviously hadn't yet gained the understanding to know that. The turning point was 2 summers later. I went on holiday with my husband to Dorset for a week, and the pain just went. It just went for that week, which was very strange, very odd indeed. So I got home and I thought, right, well, maybe it's something in the house. Maybe I'm having some sort of allergic reaction to something. Made a few inquiries about that, which didn't really go anywhere. And then a contact of mine, actually through work, who is a physiotherapist, suggested that it might be, the word she used was psychosomatic, which was a word I'd never heard before.
Right.
So
what was your response to that?
I went on to Google, so that was my response. So as any technologically minded person is, I went on to Google and I Googled psychosomatic back pain, and thank goodness all the links that came up this opened a world to me of all of this work that's been done in America by Dr. Sarno.
Yeah, good.
I spent the next few days really reading both books that I ordered on Amazon by him, and also websites to do with this thing called TMS, and reading people's accounts and that sort of thing, and the sort of personalities that tend to suffer from this mind-body connection. and I very much recognised myself in all of this. So yeah, so that's kind of when that started me down this path of discovery, if you like.
Great, fantastic. So how did you progress? Did you, from reading the books, obviously we hear so often that some people read the books and they get better, which is not very nice for those people who don't, because they feel like they're doing something wrong or maybe they'll never get better. So yeah, what was it like for you?
It wasn't, I mean, obviously one of the things I hoped and prayed for was just a quick fix. You know, it was one of these things where, you know, one thing I should mention is that my husband was with me all the way down this track. So he was incredibly supportive, which was great, and was on board with trying out this solution, or this potential solution, especially by this point, because we'd exhausted all the other avenues, really. It wasn't a quick fix. It took, both of us would testify that it took a lot of hard work in terms of changing thought patterns, I think, and that is something which you've got to work on day in, day out, and it takes a lot of hard graft. And there's, I suppose, reading the books was really helpful, but then also obviously coming into contact with you and your program was helpful. I just dug these out, actually. I haven't seen them. I made these little flashcards at the time and stuck them around the house with just positive affirmations on them. I think one of the biggest challenges was that unfortunately, by the time I discovered this work, I was already trapped in what you could call the pain cycle. So the main issue wasn't really the stress that was caused. The primary cause, which I think is fair to say, was, you know, the feelings of failure through losing my job and the stress of setting up a business and the uncertainty that comes with that. I don't think that was really the problem anymore. The problem had become the pain. And that had become the thing which was scaring me the most. So, and I think in some ways that was frustrating. So I think if I'd come across the work earlier, if I'd been pointed in the direction of it earlier by the health professionals, if they'd been aware of it and had been advocates of it, I think I would have recovered a lot faster. But unfortunately, there was a lot of unpicking to do, because I'd totally lost my confidence by this point.
Presumably you learned a lot along the way that maybe you wouldn't have learned in the past that might be better for you moving forward. Absolutely,
yeah. I mean, I've learned so much about myself, so much about the mind-body connection as well, which has been useful for my husband. You know, if he kind of sometimes comes home and says, "Oh, I've got achy knees," it's like, oh, well, actually, it's probably, you know, what's been going on, and it will just, in a couple of days, it'll disappear. So it stops us from worrying and dwelling on little things that flare up here and there. And I think I've certainly changed a lot. I feel a lot less anxious. Eventually, I was diagnosed with general anxiety disorder.
Right.
So after having done this work, I went back to my doctors and explained how I was convinced that my back pain was psychologically induced. That's the term I use, not all in your head, because I don't think that is an accurate description.
No.
No, because it's not, is it? It's real pain, but it's triggered by things going on in your emotions in the brain.
The neural pathways involved, it's very real.
It's very real. Oh, absolutely. One of the biggest turning points for me, not that I think this was the silver bullet solution, but actually a year ago we moved house. And I think just I'm someone who very much associates what's going on in my life with my surroundings.
Right, yeah.
And working from home and all that sort of thing. I think moving house and changing my everyday surroundings, for me, that helped break a lot of those negative associations that I had, and from the pain. And I would say that I've been pain-free for over a year now, which is incredible. And I'm just there's not a day that goes by where I'm not grateful for that, because...
Which helps as well, because gratitude is so good for our well-being.
Yeah, exactly. And now, I'm 35 weeks pregnant. We're expecting a baby in October, and I'm not, and I haven't had any back pain issues throughout my pregnancy, which I'm not surprised by. So that's really good news. And I think the other thing I've done is I'm really glad that I did this work before starting a family, because I think that having done all that work on myself, and learning to be more compassionate towards myself, towards others, all that sort of thing will no doubt make me a better parent as a result, as well. So I'm really glad that, like you say, even though it was a really hard time, I think if it hadn't happened then, something would have happened further down the line, which would have made me have to address it. It's something that I see. I think it's one of those things that I see other friends have. I think that's where I'm at now, because I'm kind of at the ambassador stage where you have friends or family members who are going through, who are, struggling with some sort of health issue, and you're sat there thinking, this has just come out of nowhere. And I really hope that my story will help other people at least be willing to explore the possibility of it being caused by emotions and by things going on in their lives, rather than just going down the conventional physical route, which often actually doesn't really provide any answers.
No, I'm sure your story will help a lot of people. Thank you, Sarah. If you had to pick out maybe a couple of strategies, let's say, or nuggets that you found most helpful for you, what do you think they would be?
Because I was trapped in the pain cycle and every day was all about the pain, I thought, right, what I need to do is I need to make days not about the pain, even if it's there, so that a good day or a bad day wasn't classified, it wasn't qualified by whether I was in pain or not. So I started a journal at the end of each day, writing down good things that had happened that day, acknowledging, that I might have been a bit uncomfortable, but that there'd still been good things that had happened. So it wasn't necessarily that journaling about my feelings, but it was that trying to reframe the way that I saw life.
So important.
That's one of the things that I did. And the other thing I did, as I say, I think probably was just having those reminder cards up around the house, which, so if I was just struggling emotionally to stay positive, to not kind of dwell on things, then they were there. And I think the final strategy, which for me was figuring out what my soothers were. So for me, being distracted from the pain really helped. And working from home on your own doesn't always gel wonderfully well with that. So meeting up with people during the day, going around and working in other places. I had a few other friends who were kind of around at home, thankfully, where I could go and work, so that I had some sort of human interaction, which was a bit of a soother for me, and took my mind off any kind of physical discomfort that I was in as well, and that sort of thing. So putting those sorts of things in place, just to help pull me, as I say, out of that pain cycle, and slowly help me develop confidence that actually, yes, my pain is emotionally induced without a shadow of a doubt, and yes, it can go away. Occasionally I might have the odd you know, the odd twinge, but it doesn't scare me. It doesn't take hold of me the way that it used to at all.
You now recognise, like we all do, that it's just a signal from within to tell us to look at what's going on. So,
yeah, to tell you to look after yourself.
Yeah.
And, you know, sure enough, you know, later on that day, or, you know, even, you know, a couple of days later, I haven't noticed. I haven't been noticing it, but it's gone.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest challenges is if someone tells you not to think about the colour red, then all you think about is the colour red. Absolutely. And I think that's definitely, you know, one of the hardest things. Kind of, right, I'm not going to think about the pain today, but that's not the way the brain works. No. So it was trying not to kind of fight it, but just trying to accept it in a compassionate way, and finding other things to do that would get me from it.
I'm glad you said that, because I was about to say that you really seem to have a really good positive mindset change and able to allow the pain to go. So allowing the pain to go rather than trying to get rid of it, which so many people try to do. So that's exactly what you just said. So fantastic, yes, because it is about just letting it go, isn't it? And it's so hard when you feel like you've got to try and do it. So,
yeah, and I'm very much a trier. You know, I'm kind of I'm going to fix this problem. Yeah. You know, but actually that's not. And I think that is something else I've learned, and will probably learn a lot more when baby comes along. Yeah. Is that you can't fix you can't fix and control every problem that is put in front of you. Sometimes you have to just be a bit more allowing, and like you say, allow it to pass. Yeah. And I think again that was something that was a struggle for my type of personality. Yeah. But ultimately, you know, has worked. Yeah. Fantastic. Well, I'm so pleased for you, Sarah. I'm really excited that you are having a baby so soon as well. So congratulations. Yeah. I'm sure you'll be a happy mother, and you will be able to pass all this on to your children as well. It's fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And I know a lot of people will really benefit from this. So thank you. Oh, no problem. Thank you, Jodie. Thank you.